Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Beyond the Case, which is a podcast where global leaders from Harvard Business School's OPM community join in a personal capacity and they share the real lessons, failures, mental models, and life principles that go behind building enduring companies. My guest today is Devendra Surana. Devendra, how are you?
I'm good. Thank you. Thanks for having me here.
Thanks for joining us. Could you take a moment to introduce yourself, your business, and as well, so we can learn about what you do?
Devendra Surana this side, based out of Calcutta, India, which is West Bengal state. And primarily, like all along, I've been in the city, schooling and everything. Started my career, professional career, way back in 99, 2000. And primarily, it was with plastic packaging. That's where kind of started. And then the journey went on and been growing organically in that. It's always been that learning is like the education has played an important role on how you shape up in your career and the kind of decisions that you take. I've always seen the education, the research, or the reading, the case studies, and all of it has given a lot of deep insights of how I would want to structure my company, plan the growth for it, and how to stay relevant as we go forward in the business. So, as you would know, plastic packaging is always kind of condemned for environment and all of these issues. So that puts in a question whether you're in the right industry or not. So that's where as we go forward, I'll explain how kind of I pivoted and transformed the entire thing at MacPit. That's the brand name for our PET packaging, and we specialize in PET packaging. So that's been our domain, and we are the largest in Eastern and Northeastern India in the industry that we kind of exist in.
Okay, great. And I've heard you mention in the past that business is in your DNA. And so, growing up with over a century of business legacy, what are some of your earliest memories of business conversations at home?
So it's an interesting thing of how while the family has been in business ever since I have kind of known, grown, and we've been in Calcutta over 80, 85 years now. Coincidentally, there was a very kind of a nostalgic thing that happened in business recently. As we go forward, I'll mention about the recycling plant that we've set up. So, as you would know, all of the waste that comes in for recycling at a PET recycling unit, it will always have a certain amount of odor, smell, which is inherent of this business. And that just reminded me of my grandfather, who in his 60s had set up a paper recycling unit. He would bring in all the old boards and cardboards that were kind of collected by the informal sector that would land up in our unit, and he would produce millboard out of it. So some way life has come a full circle that what my grandfather did is what I am kind of doing. The format has changed, the scales have changed. And when we talk about business being in the DNA is because family's been in business always. But yes, the scales were very, very different. They were typically proprietorship like kind of organization, limited people, limited turnover at best. Like when kind of was out of school for college and all, the company had about 10, 12 people working. That was the kind of size in which we existed. So it was never as big or as impactful of where we currently are and where we wish to be in the near future.
When you were young, did you see yourself stepping into an entrepreneurial role? Or were there moments when you envisioned a different life?
When like after finishing off college and when I went for my masters to Bond University, Australia, I felt that okay, after having studied there and having seen, there was one distinct learning that comes to me from the experience there way back in 97, 98 is when I was at the Bond University Gold Coast campus, is like that the ownership and management were two different things. And that thought remained with me that as an owner, as a proprietor, as an entrepreneur, you have to be answerable for what you do in the organization. So it's not like that you have the personal freedom of believing that whatever you're doing, you cannot be questioned. I think reflecting back upon being a manager and an owner are two different hats that you wear, and that demarcation has to be there. And the second learning, of course, was if you want to really go far, you really need to have a good team. So, been investing, kind of having good people, looking at good hires, retaining them, growing on the those are the pillars on where you broaden your base. And I've been lucky enough to be adding such people in the organization as and when we've been growing and retaining them as we grow. So that has been the kind of thing when it comes to the learning part of it, or the distinction about how do we run the business. And the entrepreneurial side, when after the Australian thing, the stint, I felt that okay, even I should look at a professional life now that I'm an MBA, and people were just like, that was a buzzword then, that Indians would get good big roles in organizations, they could step up the ladder. I did also float my resume around, but I had a very close friend of mine, and he had one clear thing. I told him, hey, I've applied to these places. And he told, Devendra, somehow when I look at you, I don't see you taking orders from anyone. So that one sentence stuck with me, that I realized that, okay, I am not a job seeker, I am kind of job giver. So I further focused on being a job creator thereafter. So I realized that, yes, that's my DNA, that I enjoy creating things. I enjoy setting up manufacturing units. And even if we talk about business, manufacturing is something which really appeals to me. Like, build something and see it happen right in front of your eyes.
You spoke about some of the pillars of the business. Could you also talk about some of the values that the previous generation might have passed down about running a business to you?
Yeah, so previous generation, certain things were myopic, certain things were very broad in terms of honoring your commitment, whether be it verbal or written or whatever. If it's a word, it's a word. It has to be honored no matter what. Whether you make a loss, you make a profit or whatever. While making a profit, everybody would love to honor, but even if you're making a loss, that word has to be stuck by. The other important element that has been taught, which remains deeply imbibed in me, is about human values. Like, even seeing your team persons as humans first, and business or the commercial exchange later. So that element of the personal element of treating humans with respect, with dignity, that's been a very important element of personally me. And that is how it has flown in the organization. It's just last week our CFO joined. So it's just a complete new position which opened up. About 4 5 days later, I asked him, how's it going? How's the thing around? And he told that I've got this feedback that you're very, like, you're soft spoken, and you're not too firm, and you don't scold people. I told it was not about scold or forgiving mistakes. I realized that even I make mistakes. I just try and tell them that this is what is the impact or the thing that you've done. This is what the result is. Try and be more careful. But if I realize that no, if there's remorse there, I'm ready to forget. But if there's carelessness there, I am ready to terminate. Like, so it's on extremes. It's not like a middle path that I will raise my voice and get angry and do this and that. So I just take a call, conscious call on, is that person's intent was wrong? Was he being casual, careless? Yes, then take a hard call. If it's a mistake, forgive. So it's like as simple as that.
You've been an entrepreneur for 3 decades now. What are your realizations personally about some of the realities of running a business as opposed to passively listening in into family conversations?
So family conversations were of a very different scale. So initially, yes, the core values that you kind of draw upon is, we call this concept of returns, or the back of the envelope thing. That is where our, like, the Marwadi community kind of excels in, is like understanding that, okay, will it make money or will not make money? So that gut instinct is very strong with us. Like, okay, is this going to make sense or it's not going to make sense? Are we going to lose money? So that kicks in very quick. With that, as we kind of go forward, is the element of the value system when it comes in, that this one core instinct value was a very important thing. Second, of course, is the idea of ideating, like seeing opportunities as and when they come in, and then capitalizing on them. So these two core traits, and of course, seeing manufacturing from childhood, was something like these machinery, these workshops, shop floors, and all of it has been kind of my thing from very, very early ages. So with those things being there, as we've moved onward, forward with our PET business, I realized that at some stage, the business is all about, if the entrepreneurial thing is intact or correct in its place, it's all about organizing finance and getting the right human capital. So it's capital and human capital. So these two aspects, I realized that if I, as a businessman, as an entrepreneur, if I'm able to ideate, which is my core strength, and if I'm able to organize the two other aspects of business, then I'm kind of sorted. I know that any business that I look upon, any opportunity that I sense, if I'm able to put these two resources correctly, then it is bound to give results. So that has been my learning, on top of the basic or the foundational learning that came in from the.
Looking back, what skills did you not realize you were building back in the day, but later became critical for you?
So one was, of course, the subliminally the thing of being transparent and honest. It was deeply ingrained that going forward, I started valuing the people who were kind of core contributors in the company, the people whom I interacted with. And that down the line, it went across. And 15, 20 years later, when people started visiting like customers, audits, plant visits, and all, they all kind of praise that the element of human behavior, way they talk, the honesty and the transparency that they talk with is exactly kind of something passed down. So while I wasn't aware, I always used to value that. I realized the people who grew in the roles around me had also picked up this habit of being very upfront and transparent with the transaction, with the reporting, with whatever. It's like a hard truth being conveyed then and there rather than painting rosy pictures or kind of sugarcoating things. So this is something which has kind of moved in the company no matter how I moved. Like in the sense, if people are still, not many are reporting to me now. There's a CEO who's reported, but this culture formation in the organizational culture has shaped up in a manner where it's like people are very soft spoken, they are very respectful. And I think it is the core thing is human values first. Business can happen as a second or as an kind of outcome of that. But first, treat humans as humans. So that is one thing that has moved on very fast. People have always started appreciating that we've been in forefront of tools and technologies. Like we've been constantly upgrading all that we've been doing, all the machinery, the whatever that comes in latest in the industry. East even has a time lag of 4 to 5 years compared to north and west of India. But we make sure that we are closest to introducing the things in the market, which has won the trust of the customers, of all people who have PET as a packaging medium. They always tend to that, okay, MacPet has to be one of the suppliers. So it's always like MacPet plus one. If there's serious people in the business where their business depend on the packaging, they've never kind of written us down that, okay, no, we don't work with MacPet. They've always been very kind of thing that, no, we want to have MacPet in the portfolio and we'll have someone else. And they've always valued because we build businesses beyond people here, and there are professionals who are running the show. So with that in place, a lot of large organizations and all, they value that, no, they're not opportunist businessmen, they are long-term players in the business. And we've completed 25 years in PET business. Our initial capacity when we first started was 100 tons per annum, which is currently at 62,000 tons. It's like that's the kind of where we are with our numbers, and we are further looking at expansions. And whenever you feel right, I'll also explain about how again the second form of OPM, what difference that brought in the business that I currently do.
You now have a CEO for a company that you founded. Walk us
Yeah.
through that mindset. Why did you hire a CEO? Why not you as the CEO? And how do you get insights into strategic guidance, vision for the company, and metrics for the performance?
Perfect. So initially, like about the CEO has been around for almost 5 years now. So it was part of risk mitigation as well, because from the family, I was the only one there. All the businesses kind of can run on auto mode since 2010. Because while we were in a joint family setup, but we kind of rooted out on our own independently way back in 2010. So I realized that, okay, it's too much on a single person for things to be running. And as you grow in business, you move away from that mindset of being a proprietor, then a company, and then towards an organization. So I realized that, okay, it's important to have people who are like, if I'm not around, the thing should still run. So currently with 700 plus people working, so it's important. There are lenders who are there. So all of them should draw a comfort that in case Devendra is not around, is there someone competent enough to answer? At the back of the mind, everybody has the succession planning. Who next to talk to? So I had this realization long back. Businesses could run on auto mode, but the new business creation, if we talk about new expansions and all, that was not something that the team until 2020 21 was capable of. They could run everything that was there, but they would not be able to add or find a direction towards where we would want to go forward. And at times, it's good to have a sounding board, have people, like minded people who have that kind of education. Like my CEO is a Stanford alumni, he's worked with EY, he's a chartered accountant. A brain which can resonate with your ideas, you can discuss and then go forward towards implementation. So part of it, hiring was to strengthen the team, risk mitigation, succession planning, stakeholder management. So all of it. So this is what the routine kind of functions, and most of it has been offloaded to it. And I still enjoy doing the new product development and planning the expansions and the resource mapping of how best I can like maneuver the business and keep changing the directions based on where the industry is moving. So that's where my core strength is. I'm not an operations person that I would see or daily production, daily dispatches, daily collection. I realize I'm not the person very strong with that, and I don't enjoy doing that as well. So I've rather kind of kept myself away, and I enjoy doing the new business development part of it.
Devendra, you achieved something which we all aspire to get to. You have started working on the business as opposed to working in the business,
Yes.
which is great. You've separated yourself from the entity. Kudos on that. Talk to us about how you found the motivation to keep going in the early days of the company if the results didn't show up the way you expected them to. Because entrepreneurship is often a lonely journey. So, what is the mindset you had to keep pushing forward?
Okay, so I see two important aspects that you mentioned. First is like how to start and when and what to do if you don't get the results that you're expecting, which in other words would mean failure. And second is of course the part that you mentioned is like the I would say I just kind of missed out on the second thing. So one is the failure part of it. I'll talk you through, and it's very nice that you touched upon this topic because most of the learning actually comes in from failure. And that had been the case when I initially started way back in 2000. First 2, 3 years were miserable in business. After the MBA, you felt like, okay, you double down in the sense of confidence that your family's been doing business, they've not incurred a loss. And here you are 3 years with overseas education way back then in a small family setup, and you're not performing, you're not delivering. It's a moment of great self doubt of what were you made for, but that also taught me all the important aspects of life, be it relationship, be it what the function of money, be it about the business that I currently excel in. All of the learning from there is like something which is kind of deep rooted me in this industry, and I still excel. And what kept me going is when you keep seeing people around how they are growing in their business, kind of aspire to. Whenever I would travel overseas, look at the factories in China and Europe and all, I would see that, okay, look at the skills, look at the way they are operating. And you never go and identify who's the owner here and I will want to talk to him. So I always aspired that, okay, I would also want to build something which is beyond a person's name. It is actually a company which can stay beyond me, after me as well. So that was the deeper thought inside that no, this is how it has to be shaped. It need not be an identity of what Devendra Surana means Macbeth. It has to be a Macbeth is Macbeth. Founder is him, but the legacy continues. So that is how it is. And in short, if I tell you what inspires me, is always the competition. When you see that, okay, you are kind of behind in the race, you put up, you like put in your resources, rework your entire strategy, understand what is it that you are not doing and someone else is doing and they are exceeding. So you quickly work on that, and the previous strength and the previous experience that has helps me immensely to multiply and again stay ahead. So we've been leaders since 2008 in the region. For 18 years we maintain that leadership position. It's not an easy task, and you really feel good when the primary raw material supplier, the petrochemical companies, when they tell you that their competitors had come, and when they talk about Macbeth, they say that they are the people we emulate, they are the people we copy. So it's like competition is always Macbeth -3 or -5 years, and that's how we kind of stay ahead in business.
At what point did you come across the OPM program? Were you referred to the program by someone, or how did you stumble upon it? And why did you choose to do the program?
Well, interesting question. Why I chose? Because like I mentioned at the very beginning, that I've realized education has always given me answers which are not commonly available when you have these conversations with people or industry people and all. So all the businesses that I was doing until 2016, 17, growing incrementally, we were increasing our capacities, our footprint, one factory, another, few machines, adding another capacity, something of that sort. And then it was going on. Then I realized that, okay, everything that I'm doing is just maybe 5% more, 7% more every year we increasing. Is it this all that I can do? And then when you see competition catching along gradually, like if you don't do it anything for 3 years, you realize your competition is already kind of at your doorstep. So you always have to be ahead. But somewhere the fatigue of doing these incremental expansion also was kind of hitting me. So I thought it's okay again to step out in the veranda, move out of your comfort zone. And I really wanted to go back to school. And that is when I discovered about the OPM program and a lot of these books and reading that I do. So stay hungry, stay foolish. That book had a lot of these case studies or things where people were talking about a program at Harvard. So it just stuck me that, okay, there's something around and this and that. Then there was the current CEO was known to me from a previous assignment of his. I further spoke to him, and he had done his seed program at Stanford. So he told there are these programs, but for an owner, I couldn't know. But let me speak to a friend of mine, and then he suggested that HBS has this program, which is really good. And I already connected the dot with the book that I had read. So that's when I had applied, I think, way back in end of 2017 or something, or early 18. And 2019 is when I was in the campus, September, October of 2019. I thought that, okay, let's go back to school. Let's understand, are we in the right business? If we are in the right business, how do we go ahead, keep our competitive edge? Or it's like what we call the sharpen the axe kind of a thing. That all that I've been doing, it was rewarding. But then a person starts believing that, okay, all that he knows is what has to be known about this business. So I thought I will be stereotyping me and all. I wanted to get out that, break that shell, get out of it, go back to school, just be on my own for 3 weeks and that thing on. And that is where I would want to dwell upon that. Where am I in my professional journey, in my business journey? What do I want to do? How do I take MacBit ahead? Is it about MacBit or is it about something else that I could still look at? So with a very, very open mind, I went there. And of course, like, and when kind of deep dived into the case studies and all, and then started getting the answers. So things started falling in place thereafter. And I could see how I would want to transform MacBit and create a long-term advantage for the company.
Could you talk about your learnings from the OPM program? Any takeaways which stayed with you? Any
Yeah,
professor
so
inspired you?
Mhm. So every unit had its key takeaway. Like the first one, the most classic case study that we talk about is the uh, Rob Parson at Morgan Stanley. So that's one that, okay, a feedback is a very important aspect. Don't postpone your difficult conversations. Unit 2 talked about picking up the weak signals and being agile, because I remember distinctly professors telling us that we saw businesses doing the best they could during COVID because they realized it was a survival or a crisis mode. Information was traveling freely, actions were happening immediately, team cohesiveness was very high. And they were wondering that as COVID kind of subsided and the threat went away, again, we were moving back to the old ways of doing things. So that was about unit 2. Unit 3 also, there was a specific one or two liners. I just put them in the book, in my notes, that, okay, these are the kind of key takeaways. And of course, the one-on-one sessions that happened with the professors and all that also gave me a great insight. So unit 1 was when I kind of discussed that, okay, is plastic packaging or PET a safe business to be in the long term? Is there a perceived threat that the government or the policymakers may not allow this kind of business to exist, considering the environment and the other threats it poses? So I happened to have a discussion with Professor Das. I told him this is it. And he had a very interesting, again, those one or two liners, which kind of gives you the purpose or gives you the answer of what you really want to do. So his thing was, Devendra, packaging is going to exist as a medium. People will need something to sell. So he told that, look, follow the customer's journey, see what is the other thing that he can look at when it comes to packaging. And sustainability has been a buzzword for quite some time now, while everybody's been doing business. And I realized that PET has a lot of advantages. Then the clarity came in with the Plastic Waste Management Act that you could you could recycle 100%, and you can continue to recycle that, reuse it. So a customer gets a long-term solution. I find the way forward for my business that no, it's not a perceived threat. It's a resource which has to be managed. You bring back the old bottles, recycle, make them into a food grade, PET resin again, send it back again to the unit to produce into packaging, again back to the brand owners for filling or whatever stuff that they want to pack, again back to the consumer, again back to the streets or the informal sector which collect it. So it was a complete circular economy. So MacPet was all about your best bet for PET. That's how what our tagline is, your best bet for PET. And then the RPET unit that we've set up, it's all an afterthought of the studies on campus, that how do you future proof your business? How do you see the journey of it going forward? How do you transform it and create an edge? So this was a substantial investment. This almost is about a $35 million investment that has happened in the recycling business, which we've done in Eastern India because this is a strong market. There's a good population that exists here. So we went ahead and backward integrated. We set up the recycling RPET unit, which the brand name for that resin, the raw material to produce PET packaging, is called MetaPET. And the tagline there is thinking ecologically. So we built in the circularity in our business. We ensured that the glue, the stickiness, why the customers would want to stick with you in business is what we created. So now, as a single stop solution provider, the MacPit can give you the PET packaging. It can give you the sustainable solutions of RPET being integrated into the packaging. And then also they can buy the credits for the plastics that they have used, like similar like the carbon credits. They can buy the EPR credits from us. And they just have to report to the authorities that whatever packaging plastic that we consume, we've already bought these certificates from an authorized recycler, which is the MetaPet in this case. And so, as a single point solution provider, we understood that this would give us very good leverage with the customer to have to be as a supplier with them for long term. And the other core advantage that it gives is we are the only India's first PET circular enterprise. So this gives us the advantage of being ahead and very different from competition, because not many would have the appetite or the visibility or the vision to do a business like this or set up a unit of this investment as a stake, as a single point thing, that this is what will differentiate MacPet in the long run. Because being an integrated and 50% of our raw material will be produced in house will give us competitive edge, a long term sustainable advantage against competition. And this is what has exactly kind of set edge, because customers now realize that there's someone who's coming in for the recycled resin. They give us more business on the packaging side. The packaging customers are giving us business on the recycled resin side because they may have units in different parts of India. They're okay to source the raw material from us. So it's become a good kind of cyclic business with customers, wherein they realize that, okay, they are present in every value chain, every part of the industry. And we have a very good experience on the packaging development. We have a new product development team. So it's not pure play of copying and supplying something. It's actually developing, understanding the customer needs, delivering that value on the table. So all of this put together is giving MacPit a very big competitive advantage in the marketplace today.
In your view, how would you define a wise man, especially in the context of business and leadership?
See, a wise man is someone first who needs to have patience, who needs to have an instinct, in the sense, because not everybody can be a businessman, is what I realized. Because a lot of people, they can talk a lot of things, but there are few who are made to follow. There are few who know how to create. So a wise man would be one who understands every aspect of human life, be it values, be it family, be it work. So that's a very important aspect of being wise. The understanding the instincts, withdrawing when felt necessary, accepting defeat when required, learning from it, but again, rising and shining again. So that's kind of the wise man part of it.
If you could sit across the table from the younger version of yourself who's just finished his MBA, what advice would you give him today now that you've gone through this journey?
Honestly, we came in from a very small business setup. So I was trying to play very safe initially because first there was a failure. So there was a bruise which had to heal. So whenever a person, like if we talk about the Maslow's need hierarchy, so it's about the basic needs, then the social, and then it goes on. So I realized that somewhere initial first few years, I could have done something more pragmatic, more ambitious. During those days, I was kind of feeling that, okay, I was multitasking. I was importing machinery and selling. I was making paper cups. I was doing preform. So three different businesses at the same point of time. And then I realized that no, I excel in preforms. So I will take that as a core business and I'll move forward with that. But I could have taken much bigger stakes in 2007 8, then I would have kind of grown faster. Had we done geographic expansion beyond the region during those days, also I could have grown faster. So these are the two things I think I went a little on the defensive side in contemplation, and maybe was just initial success was something that I've kind of started enjoying and doing that incremental thing till the time I realized no, that this has been a too long a period of just incremental expansion, is when I again wanted to kind of restart and be to school again.
A last question for you is there a book that has influenced the way you think that you'd want to share with us?
There are a whole lot of books that have inspired, and so as an entrepreneur you go through different cycles of thought process. At times it's expansion, at times it's family, at times it's management, at times it is personally about you and yourself. So every different, the one that struck me was about Simplify. It was about Captain Gopinath who started Air Deccan. So for me, that's been a very, very inspiring book because I realized a person being on the battlefield, serving the army in 1971, he was on the war front, India-Bangladesh war, this East Pakistan war. And from there, this person goes on to set up airline company, that too in India, where licensing, the protocols, and the lobbies, and all of it, in spite of all odds, he could start an airline in India, which even Tatas were struggling to. So that made me believe that again, it reinstated the fact he had two other friends of him who excelled in bringing in money and managing. And he was a person who was ideating. So I realized that, okay, if you really kind of believe in something and deeply enough and you make it as a single point agenda, then you can achieve whatever you want to. And that is what saw in him. And he was like, there are certain examples in the book which are really, really deep kind of thing, that won the Rolex award for farming. And he was trying some weird stuffs where in Mysore, then he was selling Birla Yamaha gensets, then he was selling bullet motorcycles. So one person being on the war front, selling distributorship and starting an airline is like too much for a person to in terms of career trajectory. But he was doing it all. So that made me realize that if you really deeply feel about something and you really want to make it happen, you can make it happen. Now it's just a matter of what is your grit and what is your determination to do it.
Thank you, Devendra. You clearly
Thanks.
have reflected a lot on your business, on your life journey. I was
Mhm.
extremely impressed with the fact that you've already separated the entity from yourself. You have professional management in place, and I think this conversation is going to benefit me personally a lot because I'll find myself revisiting this conversation, and hopefully a lot of the listeners will feel the same. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thanks,
Yeah,
Zoe. It was great chatting with you.
one.